How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for doing this. Well, now that the education system is totally fixed, how's everything going?
Yeah, who knows what's to come? I think we're all in like a little bit of a strange state at the moment, but in terms of the film and the actual school that these moms started, it's
Yeah.
hopefully on a good path.
Yeah. I mean, talk to me a little bit about just the evolution of the film because it's been pretty remarkable.
Yeah. So I started working on the film probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and my son is dyslexic, and he was in the public school system, and we weren't able to get resources for him. He wasn't able to be diagnosed, and we got a lot of pushback, truthfully, about them just not having what he needed. And so we enrolled him in a private specialized school for dyslexic kids. And, we saw him flourish. He, got the help that he needed and was taught in the way that he needed to be taught. And I think I was at ABC News at the time. I was a journalist, and doing more and more research on it, I realized it's 20% of the population. That's a, huge number of kids that are not being served in the public school system. And I just wanted to dig in more. And so I just sort of got very involved in, what's being done. And the other statistic that really shocked me was that 50% of prisoners are dyslexic, and that's nationwide. And so the question I had was, how does this happen? How does this occur that, you have this large group of kids falling behind, and then you have this incredibly large number of incarcerated individuals who are dyslexic? And so, where does the system fall apart? As I said, I was at ABC News at the time, and I decided to start my own production company and get back into documentaries. And so I wanted to do something on this topic, but didn't really know what the story was or where to focus. And then I saw this article about these moms who were trying to start the first public school for dyslexic kids in New York City, in the largest public school system in the nation. So I called up one of the moms and said, "Hey, tell me about your journey and what you guys have done." I talked to her for hours, and they had done so much research. They were so incredibly thoughtful. All of them were affected by either their kids having dyslexia or being a reading specialist in the system. And I really just asked them point blank, "Can I follow your journey and see where this leads us?"
It's such a big thing though. Obviously you have a personal connection to it, but also you're a journalist. Do you think it's just because of both things, kind of both passions that you kept going and like you kind of ran after the story? Because it's just such a big thing. I don't know. Some people would be like, oh,
I
we'll leave
think
it to
a lot of
someone
it
else.
was. I mean, this was my
Yeah,
first independent film that I was directing. So
sure.
it there was a ton that was, new for me and that I had to learn as along the way. And you're right. I think it's really hard to keep going, and following a journey for 3 years.
Hmm.
And it was. I think it was because I was so passionate about getting help for other kids, I think is what did keep me going. And, along the way, you meet parents who are exactly the same as you. You hear their stories and and really being much, much worse off, and that it just felt like I had, once I started, I really, just felt like I couldn't stop in the sense that I feel like I would have been letting too many people down. So, and I really did I think every time I would talk about it with people and tell them the statistics, people were outraged, people were shocked. And, then those were people who were outside of the dyslexic community. So I felt like this is something that's going to resonate across the board.
Yeah, I mean it's staggering. And then so you make the film. And then the fun part is how do you get people to watch it, right? How do you get people to see it? So talk to me a little bit about that. You finished the film, and then what? And obviously, like Larry Mullen is the headline, right? How do you get him involved? And I want to ask you about that, and it's not just because I'm a YouTube guy, but and I know that he has obviously a personal connection to it, but you make this amazing film that's so super important, but there's so many documentaries that are done that are so important that no one sees. So talk to me a little bit about the challenge, of getting eyeballs.
Yeah. I think, I mean, what I was, so fortunate in having was an incredible team, behind this film. And again, so many passionate people. And truthfully, a lot of the producers who were involved all have kids who are dyslexic as well.
Wow.
So, a local dad in Larchmont, Chris Farrell, who made the film Jimmy Carter, Rock and Roll President. I went to him very early on and said, I have this idea for a film. I have no idea how to actually bring it to fruition. And, he was just as sort of excited about the whole idea. And then we brought on Green Hummingbird Entertainment and their two producers, Sean Edwards Beale and David Beale, who are just incredibly talented music producers, television producers, film producers. And they really brought it to how do we get this film seen? How do we get the publicity it deserves? How do we make it, so that people do watch it? Because you're 100% correct. I think that a topic like this and many documentaries that are so worth seeing don't get seen, and through all of our sort of efforts, we brought in Larry Mullen, who, Chris and David and Sean had a connection to, and he opened up about, his own struggles with his son. And the film resonated incredibly with him. And what he brought was another level to, I think in a film you have layers. You have layers of, we have animation in our film. We have incredible characters. And then music is a huge part of that. And so what Larry brought to the film was really watching it and taking in his son's emotion that he went through. He watched the film with his son, and his son couldn't even get through the whole movie. He's 29 years old. He was incredibly let down by the school system. And it was those feelings that Larry used to create the opening song for the film. And, it's a really emotional scene of a mother and a son reading, and he is struggling to read. And, I think bringing on other ways to express that emotion was really important to all of us. And then we brought on Gail, who is a singer-songwriter. She's also dyslexic. And again, she wrote the song for the end of the film, Between the Lines, and it's so incredibly personal, to her journey that she went through. And she has a line that talks about, her being special and weird and and what she felt as she went through. So I think it was those types of things that set the film apart, and that's why we were really able to get the incredible press that it has gotten.
Yeah. And the theatrical run as well.
And the theatrical run. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's been incredible. We were, at the Quad in New York City for a week, and it was for all of us an amazing sort of moving experience to watch it with an audience, watch it with, families that have gone through this, educators who feel just as frustrated by the system as parents because they want to teach these kids how to learn and they haven't really been taught. We spoke to adult kids that kind of felt uncomfortable talking about this their whole lives and then realizing, wow, I'm not alone in this. There's so
Yeah.
many other adults that where I am, kids that are went through this. So it was a really honestly very cathartic experience, I think, for the audience, for us as filmmakers. And again, I think it just propelled us even more to know and recognize that we need to get this out. We want to just, bring this to as many people as we possibly can because we do see the power in it.
What's the experience been like in your own home? Like, with your own your own
It's
son watching it?
it's it's been amazing in the sense, it definitely taking on creating a film is a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And so I was away a good
Yeah.
amount, but I think it was also really uplifting for, my whole family, but especially my son.
Yeah.
I think him seeing me bring his experience, the need for this to be there for every child is incredibly moving to him. And, I said to him at one point at one of the screenings, I said, I'm so happy you're dyslexic. Not only are you incredibly brilliant and creative and, you think differently, but it's also brought us to this point where we're able to possibly make real change for so many kids. And so I think it feels like it was meant to be.
I don't want to say change, but what have you seen or heard or that's grown out of the film?
So I think it's still, I mean, what's happening now is
It's
I'm getting
sorry, it's still new and it's
It's still new, but I
yeah.
think, what is occurring is you're seeing all of these voices and groups and parents across the country who've been, working on this for a very long time. And I think it's energizing that community. I mean, we've gotten hundreds and hundreds of emails from not only across the country, but across the world. Ireland, Scotland, Australia, and everyone wants the film to come there and spark conversation. So I think that, I think what we're seeing is the early stages of how is this film going to make a difference? And I said to a woman today, I said, every state, every country is very different in terms of where they are with legislation, with screening, with you know, the need that they, have in this area. And I think that by bringing this film to those areas, it will hopefully spark conversation, potentially put pressure on legislators, schools, and kind of also energize people to really get behind this.
Have you noticed my background right now is in social media. So I mean, have you noticed the power of good social media can do when it's come to your film?
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sort of new to social media, so I mean, I should
Yeah.
be a lot better at it, but
Yeah.
we have seen, I mean, it's allowed us to reach so many. And, we've had the fortune of being, of having you two post it on their social media channels and Kelly Clarkson posted on her social media channels. And so that, there is so many people that have followed them. But yeah, I mean, we're getting responses, thank you so much for, creating this film. Thank you for bringing it. Thanks for sharing your story and the story of these moms. So 100%. I mean, I feel like this is definitely a great use of social media.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is, and again, I know it's new. I know it's been living with you for a while, but what's next for you? Like what does this experience, lead you to do next?
I think, I mean, I love telling stories. I will always be a storyteller, and I think there's, many mediums to do that. So I think it's kind of exciting to be. I loved my time at ABC News, and that was an incredible sort of learning experience. And now that I've sort of moved on, I recognize there's so many ways to get stories out there. And so I think that's kind of an interest of mine, not only like making more films, making more documentaries, other topics, but also, I'm looking into animated series and potentially, going in different directions. And so it's exciting. It's kind of, one, I want to make, we're going to be doing a social impact campaign for the film. And that's what we're in the process of now. So really get it everywhere in the country and how we can get resources to people. But yeah, I feel like, I love telling stories and I love meeting characters. I love like telling people stories and getting people to really genuinely know something about someone or some event or some issue that they don't know about. So I'll continue to make films and hopefully, they get seen and hopefully the environment is also going to keep going. I think it's a tough place for documentary films in some ways. And I hope that so many of these great films get seen.
Yeah. Well, I hope yours continues to get seen because it's brilliant. So good luck with it. Can you just share like how people can find out more about the film?
Yeah. So go to our website, leftbehindthefilm.com. We have all of the screenings that are currently going on. We are going to be at Jacob Burns on February 24th. And then we're going to be at Pelham Picture House in March. We're headed out to the West Coast, but we would love, and there's an area on our website too that you can sign up for our newsletter, how to host screenings for
Cool.
impact. If you're an educator, how do you get it into your school, etc. So our website has a wealth of information.
Well, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.